What's up, everybody? Welcome back to again another episode of the Savage Corner. I am so happy about today's episode. I have a very close friend of mine. Her name is Katelynn. Katelynn, say hello to everybody for me.
Hello.
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 Soft monotone. Where's that energy I see on Instagram?
How's it going? How's it flowing?
There you go. There you go. Caitlin is on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and is that it?
Now everywhere.
Yeah.
Snapchat,
Oh, that's
everywhere.
right. You are on Snapchat
Hmm.
as well too. So, and Caitlin is a life coach. Actually, you know what, Caitlin? Tell them what you do.
Okay. I am a healing and empowerment coach. I'm a single mom, and I really love sharing my story with people, but I also love listening to other people and hearing their struggles and what they're going through. Yeah, I'm a lover at heart. So
And Caitlin, where are you from?
I am in Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada. It's my first overseas person, even though you're not overseas, really.
No, over the line, just over the invisible
Yeah.
line.
We're spreading out all over the world here.
Yeah, I love that for you.
The reason why I love having Caitlin on, and also if you've kind of noticed with all my other guests, Caitlin has a story. And that story is what brought her to where she is now, and also what gives her the experience to be able to help other people. And I've always said that the people that have the experience are the ones that you want to deal with, especially when it comes to selecting a coach. If you're going to select a coach or just selecting somebody to listen to, look for the people that have a real past and not somebody that just read a bunch of books about it. Like myself, like Caitlin, you guys know that I went through a divorce. I grew up in a bad area. I was involved in street gangs when I was a kid. I had friends that were murdered. I've had anything that you can think of as far as life is concerned. I've had it thrown at me, and I've come out squeaky clean, always on the other side because it built resilience, and that's what I want on this show is more people that have been through something, so that way when they speak genuinely from the heart and get people to where they need to get to through experience. Don't you agree, Caitlin?
I do. I also
Yeah.
think that when people come to me for coaching, I like to say that coaching and therapy are beautifully coupled because therapy brings the science behind it, which I don't have. And I'm not afraid to say I don't have the science behind it. But what therapy usually lacks is empathy and experience. Like they're not coming to you with the knowledge from being in that experience or something similar that you've experienced. So it's usually very science based and lacking that emotional attachment to it. And so with coaching, people bring in their experience, their empathy, their compassion, but also, okay, here's what might work for you. This is what I've done. This is a book that I read because of that situation. So I feel like it's just more entwined and more intentional than therapy can be sometimes. Also, the accountability part of coaching, I really love because I like to light the fire under someone's ass and then watch them take the action. Like I will follow up with you and make sure that you're doing the stuff that I told you to do. Therapy also is lacking that. So,
Yeah. And a lot of therapists, there are a lot of therapists that have been through it or been
mhm,
through something. That's the reason why they chose to become a therapist, but they still seem to not apply it the way that a coach does. And
yes.
that's why I agree with you. There's a lot of things. There's been clients that have come to me and I'm like, look, hey, I'm probably not your first stop. Your first stop's going to be a therapist, and then come see me afterwards.
Yes. Yes.
And even couples too. It's a lot of times people think coaching is just designed for one person. It can be a couples thing too.
Hmm.
So because just because we weren't successful in a relationship and it wasn't our fault completely, doesn't mean that we can't help people be successful in their relationships. Because I think you would agree, Caitlin, that when you come out of a relationship, even though you didn't deserve the stuff that you went through, you will still find fault. And if you don't find fault, then you're not looking deep enough. And I'm not saying that it's your fault that it happened. I'm saying you had a fault in the demise of the actual relationship. Do you agree with that?
100%. I think that
Yeah.
inner work is really important because it prepares you for the partner that you actually want to be with. It prepares you for you coming into who you want to be, right? Like you get to change going forward because that version of you that was in that marriage also made mistakes and choices, but going forward, you're going to change and evolve if you do the work on you. I feel like when we go through a breakup or a divorce, we're so focused on how we were wronged. We sit in that victim chair, and it's a great chair to sit in sometimes, but man, you got to get out of it. You got to get out and you got to go actually face who you were in that relationship so you can move forward and make the changes necessary to become the best version of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I know it's hard to be like, man, I was kind of shitty. Um, like that's hard work, but it's so important.
Yeah. I think the biggest one of the biggest things for me was, yeah, I went through divorce. I went through a year of not dating at all. And then I bumped into an old high school sweetheart, and we ended up dating for about a year. She even moved in with me and everything. And guess what happened? We got cheated on again. And so when that happened, that's when I said, Wesley, hold on. All right, that's two. So let's take a step back. What am I doing to attract this particular style of person? Because obviously I'm doing something. And that's when it opened my eyes. And I said, wait a minute, I did something wrong the first time. It didn't deserve it. Didn't deserve it either time, but I did something wrong. And so therefore I have to work on that. And once I did, it's not been an issue ever since. So that's where when you said that, that's the first thing I thought of, because again, if you don't do that inner work, if you don't find that inner problem in yourself, then it just, you're going to attract the same type of person over and over. It's just a wicked cycle, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And in divorce, it's tough as it is, but when it involves cheating, the first thing we want to do is play victim. And like I said, you deserve it. You didn't deserve to be cheated on. So if you want to play
Yeah.
victim for a few moments, then do it. But
Yeah.
there is something, again, that was lacking in that relationship, and that something had a little bit to do with you. Usually is what works out. So,
Yeah. It's true.
yep. So another reason why I wanted to have you on today was because the topic. So the topic I wanted to really touch on today was dating with children, and you're in this mode, right?
Yeah.
You did not seem confident about that.
Because it's a shit show. It
It
really
is.
is. It
No,
really
it
is.
really
This day and
is.
age in dating, such a loose term now. Like I feel like everybody's just out here. I don't know if we can use the term dating anymore because nobody's truly dating. We're just all like bumping each other, And I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to do that anymore. So I'm
Yeah.
like open to receiving love and a
Yep.
partner, but I'm
Yep.
not really interested in just like floating around. I don't know. It
Right.
just feels weird.
Yeah. No, I understand it. I understand it. I understand it completely. I think they've taken some of the advice that I would say a little bit too far, because I would tell people, stop dating like that. Just kind of do your thing. Go to the things you want to go to. Bump into the people that are around those places, because those are the people that you want to be with anyways. But it's, for me, it was tough because I mean, I did it the way you would think dating would work. I went to the apps and I set up dates and I went on them and I met people, and even then it felt like a shit show.
Hmm.
And it was a long time ago. So I mean, not really that long. I mean, Summer and I have been together now for, I think it's going on our fourth year. It's like 3.5 years, something like that. So up to that point, when I met Summer, though, I had given up. I was like, I'm done. I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. And I don't think it was like 3 days after I said that I met.
Okay, so I'm over it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
So I'll wait 3 days.
But it was in an unconventional way. I met her on TikTok and alive. We just wasn't expecting that to go into that. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, what I want to talk about majority of the time was with children. I get a lot of questions. When do I introduce my kid? Should I do it? What do I do? What type of person am I? I mean, I get an endless amount of questions because I went through it, and I'm sure you've gone through quite a bit, unfortunately, yourself as well too. So that's why I wanted to have you on for this particular topic. And the first question, of course, that I'm going to ask, and this is the one I get asked the most, is, how long do you wait before you introduce your child?
That's like the golden question, right? I feel like even when you're dating, people ask you, so how long do you wait? And for me, because my children are older, right? I have a 16-year-old and almost 11-year-old. My children know that people will come and sometimes go in my life, but I am the constant. And I've built that reputation in our relationship by showing up consistently in our relationship. So even when a new partner comes in or a friend or whoever comes into my life, I am still their rock. I am still here. I'm not going anywhere. It's just my time is now divided and we talk a lot. We have a lot of communication. But when there's younger children involved, I tend to be more mindful and aware of the fact that that is a very young age, like anywhere between like 0 and 8. I feel like there's so much in that that they attach to people coming in and out of their lives. I don't want to interrupt that. I don't want to come in and then leave. Even though I know I'm great and I would impact, their lives in a positive way, but the leaving part I think is really hard on children. So I'm really open about communication and talking to whoever I'm interacting with about what's good for them, what's good for their children, what are they comfortable with, what about the co-parent. I think what people need to realize is that there's no set time. You can't walk up to someone and be like, "Well, I wait a year." Okay, that's great. I'm glad that that's where you're comfortable. But what happens when things evolve in a quicker dynamic, like a quicker way? Like, what if we're 3 months in and we're thinking moving in together because it's just so good? You don't know. I think it's good to have like a mindset of like, okay, I'm open to it, but realistically speaking, a year would feel comfortable for me. But you're able to sway it around that year mark. I think people just need to communicate. Honestly, that's probably the biggest downfall in dating is lack of communication.
Well, that's the biggest downfall, unfortunately, in the human society right now. Nobody
Yeah,
knows how to talk anymore. Everybody wants to talk out of their trauma or their pain or their suffering. Nobody wants to stop and put themselves in somebody else's shoes. Like it's
yeah,
really, really tough right now.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree 100% because that's what I try to tell people. Like, how long? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I can't give you a date on September 22nd night. That's
Yeah.
when you do it.
Wait, did you almost say 19?
I did because I'm still stuck in the past, but you know, but that's exactly how I feel too because it just it depends on the two of y'all,
Hmm.
and how you communicate, what you where the process in the process you're at, what you both feel, the children, like especially it's really really hard if you're dating somebody else that has multiple kids as well too, because
Hmm.
then there's so many places. Okay, so how do you divide this time up? It becomes really, really tough. So I get wanting to get to that point a little bit faster. I just never tell people to force it. Don't ever force it.
Hmm.
Especially with a child. I'm going to walk right into the second question because it kind of leads into it. Would you have you ever or would you ever tell your children about somebody and say, hey, this is this person, you're going to hear me speaking about them. While I'm speaking about them, if you ever want to meet them, let me know, and then let it develop that way. Have you ever thought about that? I had somebody ask me that the other day. I was like, you know what? I don't know if that might actually work, and I don't know if it will or not. You ever think about doing it that way?
I mean, my children know that I date, right? Because I usually look like a bum most of the time. So if I'm getting ready and I'm going somewhere, my kids are like, What are you doing? Where are you going? Why'd you put pants on?" And it's like, "Oh, because I'm going out and I'm gonna go on a date." When the my famous saying for the last 6 years is, "When it's important, I will tell you." When this person is important, I will tell you. Until then, I'm just meeting people. I'm just going out and having fun and living my life. They still ask, but I always use the same. I just repeat it. When it's important, you'll know. And they trust that because there's been no one of importance that has come in and really had the ability to impact our lives, and that's okay. But I think it's just having communication with your children. I don't know how that would feel receiving, right? Like I put myself in the position of a child and my parent, my caregiver is telling me like this person's involved in my life. But if you're curious, of course I'm curious. What do you mean? Who is this person? Like who is Cindy? And when is she like is she my new mom? Like what are we doing? Like I feel like as a child we are so excited for our parent, but also like, ooh, who is this person? Right? So I don't know if I would even say a name or anything. I would just stick to the same old. When it's important, you will know.
Yeah, yeah. Because typically the way I did it, and it seemed to work okay. I did feel like I introduced my son to too many women, unfortunately. But it, I would go multiple months. Everything would seem great, and then I would move forward. And then if it went to crap, then I'm like, man, here it goes again. Now my kid's gonna lose another one. So I felt like I did, but in hindsight, when I talk to him now, when he's 16, he said, "No, there was no problems." But I felt like I introduced him to too many. But usually, what I did was kind of like what you said. Like, of course, I look different, I act different. I'm on the phone a little bit more. Like there's just a different there, you can tell,
Hmm.
and then of course to get the questions, who is it? And I'll say what her name is, and then it'll just go from there. But I do usually did wait until I felt super comfortable, and then they already knew the name because again they've asked questions about her, and then finally I'll say, hey, you know what, we're gonna go do X. Would you like to come with us? Would you like to meet her? And even still, then they understood that I'm just meeting this person. There's no need to get heavily weighted into this yet. After the first one, they really understood. I screwed that one up. I moved her in too quick because we had a past. All that stuff. I did everything wrong
Yeah.
on the first girl that I dated after I got divorced. Everything wrong. But so we all learned from that particular mistake. But yeah, no, I think I did it kind of the same way you're doing it, just a little bit different. Just they're going to be able to tell, especially when they're a little
Right.
bit older.
Right.
Um, see, my son was about 9. My daughter was about 14, 15. So yeah, it was they were able to figure things out, yeah, big time. So, but I
But
went
it's
a very long
important.
period of just dating where
Yeah.
I didn't really have to meet anybody, so because it was, set one up, crash and burn, set one up, crash and burn. Oh, you weren't what I thought you were. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think it's important that you followed the flow because I don't think a lot of men do that. So maybe give yourself some kudos for like following the flow of what your children need and want in their lives. Like as a dad, I think that that shows just who you are as a human being, right? Like you were just so in tune with what your kids need and where their comfort levels are at. And a lot of men don't do that. I feel like a lot of men rush it, They're like, well, we've been on 3 dates, so like, can I come over? What? No, I don't know you. Like, what are you talking about? You can't come to my home with my children. Like, well, slow down, So I applaud you because it's not easy, when you're feeling all those emotions and the rushes and you're getting excited, it's hard to slow down and realize there's other players on the board. Like, it's not just you.
Yeah, and that's I mean that's huge in itself, even with co-parenting, well, in parenting in general, but especially with co-parenting, to remove yourself and do what's best or for the betterment of the children. It's super hard for people to do. I am actually really good at it. So I've been told by 1,000 people, but because there's been so many times where I was like, nope, shut your mouth, let that play out. And it's hard. But yeah, I think people have a hard time removing themselves for their children anyways. But the other thing I get asked a lot is once they're introduced, what is your expectation of that person towards your children? Like, what is there any expectations? Like, what is in your brain that you want that person to do?
It's a very person to person question because I think it and family to family because I don't want someone to come in and take a parenting role. I want someone who is amplifying and being a role model to my children, maybe giving them some new gifts or new ways of looking at things, perspective, experiences. I'm looking for someone to just come in with who they are and not necessarily taking on any roles or any expectations. Like I don't have a set of like, okay, well, this person's going to come in and they're going to do X, Y, and Z and they're going to show up in this way. I want them to be like a gift that I didn't even know I needed, And I feel like that takes a lot of pressure off of who I'm seeking as a partner, right? Like I don't, and also I wouldn't want that for me. I wouldn't want someone coming in who is looking for a mother, right? I'm not here to be a mother to your children, but I definitely want to amplify their lives and I want to teach them about all the things that I find beautiful and amazing in the world. And I think that's the way that we should expect people to show up in our children's lives because at the end of the day, they're not their parent.
No, no. And have you actually been a step parent? I couldn't remember. You don't have any step kids, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay. So and that's where I go from my experience is that you have to coming into it. So you have to make sure that you're not a parent at all. That's not your job. Your job at front is to show them respect, kindness, loyalty to their parent, whether it's the mom or the dad, And then the other thing is just to show them that you're not going to waver. You know, you're not going to be walked on, but you're not going to be somebody that walks away either.
Hmm.
You know, so it's just, and that's the hardest thing to do, because even like right now, when we moved to with summer with my son, the first thing that happened was the two older boys wanted to be big bro. And I was like, "That's gonna it's gonna backfire in your face. You're don't do that."
Yeah.
But it's hard, you know, because that's the first thing they wanted to do, was like, "Ooh, I have a little brother." It's like, "Nope, slow it down. You have a friend." You know? And you're just meeting him, you know. But it's so it is hard to come in, because also, like I said, with not being walked on. So like you do have to make sure you stand up for yourself, because you will be a lot of times you will be tried
Hmm.
by somebody else's kids, big time, sometimes, and that's when it gets really nasty. But it's, you know, for the most part, you have to make sure you just stand firm and treat whoever you're dating with a ton of respect, because that's really all you're supposed to be there for, and let everything go through the parent. You know, if something is off or wrong, then communicate to the parent. If something happens during your, you know, maybe you ran to the store and I'm there at the house with them, then, you know, something happens and I communicate. You know, if you just always communicate to the actual parent, because if you try to communicate to the child, it can really backfire in your face big time.
Mm.
You know? So the other thing is, what is your expectation of the kids towards them?
Respect. Definitely
Respect.
respect. Yeah. And yeah, because I haven't been here yet, right? So I'm speaking from a place of what I would imagine how it would go. Like I haven't been in a situation where I've lived with anyone or anyone's like really been heavily involved in my children's development or life. But the way that I see it is my kids need to respect who I've chosen as a partner, but they're also allowed to have, feelings and opinions. And they're, they can share that in a respectful way. Like I encourage that anyways in my home. So I wouldn't necessarily stop that from happening, because I'm aware that it's going to happen. We're going to butt heads and things aren't always going to be hunky dory. Um, but because I haven't been in that like circumstance, I don't necessarily know what expectations I would have.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I was going with that, because it's the biggest thing is respect, because there has been situations, even when I was dating, where one of my kids just wouldn't even look the person in the eye, and I'm like, that's gonna stop. You know, I look, if this is the wrong choice, it ends up being the wrong choice, but you're still going to give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, it's hard sometimes. They don't want that person in their lives. They, for whatever reason it is, they've had their trauma through my divorce, just like I've had my trauma through my divorce. You know, so it's hard sometimes, but it's hard for the kids sometimes when they first go into the situation, because again, they didn't ask to be there either.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing. And the other thing too is, because I saw something online. I want to get your opinion on this. It kind of, I it's one of those things, when I tell you what it is, I'm gonna tell you my initial reaction was, "You jerk," you know. But then when I took a step back and started analyzing it, I was like, I really don't know. So what happened basically is a man married a woman. The man had one daughter. He was in full custody of the one daughter. The woman that he married had two daughters. So they're living together. They've been living together for years. So there's three daughters, mother and father now, right? All living in the same roof. He took his youngest daughter to Disney World to spend time with her. And the woman got upset and put it on TikTok. And my first instinct was he was a jerk. And it blew up on TikTok in the other direction, where people were saying, no, he's not a jerk, and that this is okay. But the type of comments that I was reading were not okay. I mean, they were just saying things like that's not his kids. He doesn't have to worry about it, stuff like that. I'm like, ouch, no, hey, hey. You're supposed to treat them like they're one of your own. You know what I mean? Like that's the old cliche, the old saying that I followed, at least. Hell, I followed it to the point where my daughter stayed with me after my, my ex-wife left. That wasn't even my kid, and she stayed with me. So I treated her like my own all the way through. You know, so what is your opinion on that? Isn't that a hard conversation to have, right?
Well, I've lived it. This actually
Okay.
happened to me too.
Okay.
My ex took his stepson to Disney World and left our two
The
boys
exact
home.
same film. Oh, wait a minute.
Exact same.
Dude, I promise you I didn't do
I've
that.
never shared
Okay,
that
so
story
tell me about
before,
this.
but
Tell me. Go
that
for it.
actually happened, and my boys were devastated, and they didn't understand why their dad would take his stepson and not them. to Disney World. And to this day, I still don't fully understand why, because it was never explained. However, I see it as an opportunity to communicate. Again, we come back to communication. If you have a sit down conversation with children, given the age, okay, it depends on the age, but even small children, and say, like, hey, I'm going to take, so and so away to have this opportunity with them. But because you're older or because of this, we're going to go do something different. I think there needs to be conversations happening because now my children have trauma, right? Like they feel left out. This is something that
Yes.
is still sticking in their heart today. Granted, of course, that was a painful experience for them. They were left behind. Um, and nothing, there was no makeup. There was no like follow up on like, hey, I'm free. We're going to go do something else. Like nothing
Right.
has happened.
Right.
Um, do I think that it was a jerk move because it was his daughter? No, not necessarily. I see it as an opportunity for him and his daughter to bond and have an opportunity to grow that relationship. Where the disconnect happens and we don't know because we're not there is the conversation in the family dynamic, right? Like that could have been a great opportunity for the mother of the other two to take her daughters to have a
Yeah.
growing opportunity with them and to
Yeah.
do something really cool.
Yeah.
Just because you are a blended family does not mean that you have to do every single thing together. There are still ties with your children that I'm not going to have with someone else's children. So, yeah, I'm going to have a conversation and say, hey, me and my kids are going to Ireland. Bye. Like, we'll see you when we get back. But it's your responsibility to continue that relationship with your child. I guess because of again, I've never been there. Like, I've never been in a blended family dynamic as a parent. I don't know what that feels like, but I know who I am outside of outside of partnership, and I'm still a great mom, and I want to cultivate and nurture the relationship with my own children.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think too, like you said, it's the dynamic. Like I don't know the dynamic behind it. Is he taking the other two girls to do things too on separate things? As long as there is an equal or level out thing, then it should be okay. And again, communication is key. So, because the only time that I can see, me, for instance, doing something like that was because I was not presented an opportunity at all to be able to do anything else with my child. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm doing this because I keep lacking the area to be able to spend time with just my kid. So it again, it goes right back to the dynamic, but I can't believe that was the same scenario. Like I want to reach out. Lady, did you steal my friend's scenario?
yeah. Like, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like the way you explained it, though. The dynamic, the communication, that's all a big part of it. But you really do have to find a way to love these children like they're your own. And when you make a move like that, you are saying that they're not. So
Don't
it's
you also agree that you would draw in a partner like if you draw on a partner that has children, right, you're going to draw on a partner like yourself that is tied to their children and that you love as a parent. So why would you, as a parent coming into a situation, want to divide that? Like that's what I don't understand when these people come in to other people's lives, not me personally, but I see them trying to like separate their children from them. And I'm like, why? Don't you want that? Don't you want someone who loves their children? Because then you're getting the overflow for your children. Like they're never going to be their parent, but there's so much overflow that is so important and vital for children to receive. I just think like as a co-parent, wouldn't you want that? Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I did daughter dates all the time, but that's not going to Disney.
yeah,
We went for ice cream.
yeah. I mean, a little
So I mean,
different.
you can find ways to cultivate, without doing something so extreme. The extreme
Yes,
things are what everybody should be involved in, and well, of course, too, it's expensive. Some people
it
can't
is.
afford to take everybody to Disney.
But even if you could
Yeah.
always have that conversation like, okay, I'm taking them to Disney World because they're 5 and they're going to enjoy it. You're now, 16 and 17.
Yeah.
We'll go on a cruise or we'll do
Yeah.
something else. Like there's age appropriate things. And if that's the case, then, just make sure that they're all getting the same quality of experience and time given the circumstances. Like it shouldn't be an all or nothing. It doesn't have to be that way, but it should be sort of equal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So we got like a few more minutes. I wanted to hit one more topic. It's
Okay.
something that I've been working on in my brain, and something I want to put out more information about, or talk more about. And it's a dynamic of a relationship. So everybody's always wondering, what's that one thing? What's that one thing? Right? How do I keep this together? Right? And it made me think to the point where I started to figure it out. And the woman is usually their fear or their discomfort is that they're too much. They're always been told they're too much. They've gone, they talk too much, they act too much, they put up too much makeup. There's always something that's too much, right? It's always too much. And then and those are the really really good girls, or really, really good women. And then you go over to the guy section, right? The guy section, the really really good ones, always felt like they were never enough, and it's bridging the gap between those two things. That's it. It's making her feel like she's not too much, and making him feel like he's just enough. And pop, you got yourself a decent relationship. So what do you think?
Oh, I mean, too much, yes. I always get told that on social media, like all the time, like, oh, you're too much. Oh, you're so loud. Oh, you're so vibrant. Oh, this, all this. Oh, yeah, I am too much, but you're getting the overflow. So just imagine what I'm like in person. Like it's a lot. Um, and I think I hear what you're saying, and I like that, finding that like that coming together. However, what I find with men is that they're coming to you with their not enoughness and asking for you to continuously pour into them
Yes.
without giving anything back. And I feel like they're vampires. And sometimes they literally siphon the life out of me to where I am now dull. I don't have a shine anymore because they have not poured anything back, and they're just taking and taking and taking. So if a man has done work on himself and has self-awareness and is in his giving era, for lack of a better word, but if he's in that, like,
1900.
I want to serve, like I want to give, I feel like that then it could work because he might still be insecure in some ways, but he's not so far where you're just like, okay, come on, like, come back. Um, I think there could be magic there,
Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
she gets to just be this like bright, beautiful light, and he's just like, ah, bathing in it and loving it and knowing like the more that I nurture and give to her, the more she's going to shine and pour into me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest part, is that the guys that get to the point where they just don't feel like they're enough, when they get to the point where they don't feel like they're enough for themselves,
ooh,
that's the low.
yeah,
And I think you're right. I think you kind of hit it in the way I'm going to try to explain it, is that once they're enough for themselves and they present themselves out there, that's that that's that sweet spot, because they found
yeah,
out who they are. They're really really good people, but they still haven't had a relationship where they felt like they were right, or felt like they were even
yeah.
heard or enough. And I think a lot of that's where I was before I met Summers. As far as a relationship was concerned, I just never felt like I was enough. And then when I actually got into a relationship where she treats me that way, I'm like, oh, wow, like this feels great. It's a totally
Okay, so I
different
have a
feeling.
question for you. Then when
Yeah.
you felt like you were enough, did you give more? Like, I don't know what the holdback would be, but would you feel like you would give more knowing that she's like able to receive it?
No, I give enough.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? Because I felt like I was enough. Like I guess it's the best way to explain it is I got to the point where I was cocky, not arrogant. I knew who I was. I knew what I offer. I know what I bring to the table, and I lay it all on the table. And if you don't like what's sitting on the table, then you can keep going in the opposite direction.
yeah. Okay.
And I'm cool with it. Hey, great. You're an amazing person. Go have fun out there. But I didn't overgive. Now I did before. I will tell you that. I mean, I have weeped, cried on the phone, sent 100 text messages. Don't leave me. Like I've done all that crazy crap that you can probably think of in my past, and it disgusts me when I think about it now, but I get it. So when somebody brings it to me, I'm harsh only because I was that person. I mean, I even remember being in a friend zone, and now I look back at that, I'm like, why would I allow myself to do that? Like, why don't I just stomp my foot down and say, hey, you know what? I don't see you this way. If you don't see me that way, cool, have a good life. I wasn't looking for a friend. And I can say that now, but and I had that confidence before I met her too, though. And I think that's what helped me a whole lot. It's A lot of men are not being taught how to have confidence. My son has it.
Hmm.
He swagger all day long, and he's respectful with it, But
I think that's the caveat, right? Is you gotta have the confidence within yourself, but also be a respectful human. You can't
yeah,
be arrogant and
yeah.
rude. Yeah,
Mhm. Like I said, that fine line between cocky and arrogant is where you need to be teetering, and even the cocky side. Sometimes you need to get off of that too. But I think the best way to say is you need to feel cocky, not act cocky.
yeah,
Because I really do. I don't care what I look like and how I look when I got up this morning. I still think that I'm the best thing in the world. Like, I'm just the greatest man that walked the face of the earth. Is the way I look at myself. One of the things that I do every morning, we talked about this last podcast, is I go to the mirror. I've done this for 12 years now. I get up, I go in the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I put my toothbrush down, I look in the mirror, and I say, I love you until I smile. When I first started this, I thought it was the stupidest practice I ever heard in my life. And literally to the point, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, I love you, I love you, I love you. I
Yeah.
can't even get the words out now. And I just start smiling.
Yeah.
And so it really does work. I did it with my son one day. We were driving to school and his hair wasn't right. And, his fit wasn't right. And he was shuffling around. He's like, I hate everything about. I said, hey, pull down that mirror and tell yourself you love you until you smile. And he did it twice and started smiling and laughing. And I was like, see? And he was just like, it actually worked. So it's just a really, really good practice. I mean, you're always so upbeat. I love when I watch your content. I like every time I walk away from your content, I'm smiling.
Yeah, good.
Do you have anything you do in the morning that just gets you in that right position?
Yeah, I same. Like I tell myself how proud I am of you and, like affirmations to the point where you truly see you, right? Like I truly see who you are, right? Like we are interacting, but how often do we interact and connect with self? And I think that even when I'm coaching, especially men, I always do the mirror exercise with them. Always, because when's the last time you looked at yourself, bro? Like go in that mirror and look at yourself. You don't need other people to see it. You need to see it first. And so yeah, same. I do the same thing in the mirror and I tell myself how proud I am and just like you're wonderful and you're not too much. And it's important. It's a really important exercise and I hope more people do it, especially now that we've talked about it. Go forward and look in the mirror. Do it.
I don't think that you're living in the 1900s.
No, it is now 2000. That was so funny.
Oh
Like
my
you're
god, did I
aging
just say
yourself.
1900s? That sounds weird coming off my. Caitlin, we were born in the 1900s.
We were back in my day.
All right. Well, this concludes today's episode of the Savage Corner. I hope you guys come back. Caitlin will probably be a guest more oftenly as the future goes on, as I try to find more and more guests each week to come on to talk to you guys about life in general from people with experience. So,
Mhm.
thank you for tuning into the Savage Corner. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to keep everything up to date with the Savage Corner. Bye, everybody.
Bye.